Serious, people of Reddit, who been the victim of a home invasion, what's your story?
Go and walk my dog around my house pretty late at night, 12 a.m. to 1 a.m., maybe not the safest thing, but I live in the woods and away from people. Anyways, I started walking downstairs and noticed my sister's door was open and the light was on. It struck me as odd considering she moved out 6 years ago, and nobody ever goes in there. I walk in to turn the light off and close the door and I see a man trying to hide behind the closet door. It's broken, filled with boxes, so there was no tangible way he could hide from me. I acted like I didn't see him, and I went and grabbed my shotgun from in the other room. Went back in and told him not to move or I'd kill him. He jumped out from the closet and took off running as fast as he could, right past me, into the garage, and out into the woods. I could have shot him, but I didn't. I saw his face. A few days earlier he knocked on my door claiming to know my neighbor and said he was looking for copper to sell, asked if I knew or had any old copper he could have. I gave him a few old car batteries I had and that was that. He said he had 2 daughters he was trying to take care of. I didn't call the police officers, but that's the extent of my mercy. If he came back the next night he would be dead. I was away on vacation with my family. I returned to my apartment and the door was open. It was like in a movie, when the main character goes to open the door and realizes it's already open. My first thought is, please let this mean that I forgot to lock my door. I turn on the light and I start cursing because I immediately see that all of my movies and video games have been stolen. This doesn't sound like much, but I had a pretty extensive collection, valued at about $5,000. It hurt when I came to this realization, because I had never placed a monetary value on my collection. I called the police and there was not much they could do. The thief/thieves even stole my pocket change and my deceased grandfather's watch. The most bizarre thing about it was the fact that they left many of my valuable items. They left electronics, memorabilia, and art, but all they took were items they could easily pawn off. A week later, I actually found one of my old games on a GameStop. The receipt with my name on it was still in the case. The experience had a profound impact on me. I sold my Xbox and haven't played video games since. I just can't justify the money anymore. In the next few months after the incident, I never left valuable items in my apartment. I always carried around my laptop, hard drives, and anything that had value to me. I already had a safe before the incident, another item with priceless items that they left, and felt comfortable leaving that at home. I stopped sleeping at my apartment when the semester started. This happened during the summer. I spent most of my time at my girlfriend's and actually left many of my valuables at her apartment. What struck me most is how important it is to feel safe in your own home, and how quickly I lost that feeling. My apartment was scary, and I felt stripped of my privacy. It took me a while to recover, and moving away from the apartment definitely helped. It is something that I don't think I'll fully recover from. It changed the way I value my possessions. I am more paranoid about doors, windows, locks, things that I used to take for granted. Our house was broken into when I was a kid. We were on vacation at the time but came home immediately. I remember the house being a complete mess. My father owns a business and at the time had just upgraded his home office to new Windows 95 computers, and an office of the 90s was a gold mine for home thieves. The police officers told us it was probably 5 or 6 pros, who promptly left when they heard on their police scanner that our new neighbors had called it in. None of us have ever felt that safety of a home. The most startling part was finding kitchen knives in all of our bedrooms. Knowing they had watched us for some time to know our schedule and finding weapons that the police confirmed were probably to be used if someone was home still keeps me up at night 20 years later. My mom had recently been making a lot of brownies. On this day, she made a particular batch that was greater than any of the brownies she had made before. We ate a few, but for some reason didn't finish them and we left them out on the kitchen stove. My mom, my sister, and I all went to sleep later that night while my dad was out at a meeting. My mom, knowing my dad would be home in just a few minutes, didn't think she needed to lock the doors before she went to sleep. Now we're all asleep and my dad pulls into the driveway. The first thing he notices is that our garage is open, and his bike is standing outside. Then he turns and looks into the house. Standing in our kitchen is a man. My dad doesn't realize what's going on. At first, he assumes that one of his friends had come over, wanted to borrow his bike, but was waiting for him to come home so he could ask him. Then the man inside our house sprints out the back door. My dad starts to chase him but stops. He knows we're inside, and he wants to make sure we're okay. So now we're all gathered downstairs, and we notice something. The intruder walked into our house, and the first thing he would have seen was the kitchen table. On the kitchen table were 3 wallets, all untouched. Then we look over and see the plate of brownies, completely destroyed. The man who had broken into our house skipped over our valuables and went straight for the brownies. At the time, I was more disappointed by the fact that we didn't get to finish them than scared that we had kind of been robbed. Obviously, my mom and dad were pretty freaked out, and they bought an alarm system for the house, and my dad didn't sleep for a few days, but other than that, the only thing we lost were some brownies. Nothing extreme, but my mom called me absolutely hysteric one day. She said a man had tried to come in through our bathroom window. It was a Saturday at 1 p.m. and I was out shopping. I came home immediately, and the police were there along with our neighbor. Apparently he had broken into the neighbor's house while she was out. He hadn't stolen anything except a few DVDs and some of her clothes. He then left and came over to our house. We had our bathroom window open with the screen shut, so all he had to do was cut the screen to get inside. He was hoisting himself into the window when my mom walked in. She freaked out and screamed and he fell. She said he took off after that towards our backyard. Turns out he was just a kleptomaniac and had the urge. The worst part is that it's been 3 years, and my mom is still extremely paranoid. She watches people walking down the street like a hawk and accuses half of them of scoping out of our house. I was home midweek one time because my company gave us our department the day off after pulling some nightery. I was just sitting on the couch playing on the internet when I saw a shadow across the back sliding glass door. I thought it might have been the neighbor's dog who likes to come visit for treats every so often, but I wasn't in the mood, so I ignored it. Then I get up to get something from the bedroom and happen to look in the hallway bathroom and there's some man trying to climb in through the window. I quickly run over and yank his leg down, so he smashes his balls on the windowsill. He's yelling while I'm screaming bloody murder, hold his arm and just start wailing on his face, ribs, ears, etc. I shove him off and he just takes off running. I laughed at that one. When I was 4, my parents worked long hours at a restaurant. They left my brother to babysit me until 10 to 10:30 p.m. at night. He's 8 years older than me, so he was 12 years old at the time. Every night when my parents come home they'll ring the bell and I'll run to greet them at the door with my brother. One day the bell rang and when I opened the door, instead of my parents, there were 4 guys standing there. Apparently they had been watching the house and knew the routine. They have guns and tell my brother and me to go downstairs and watch the TV as one of the guys stands guard over us. They let me sit there but they tie my brother up using his Nintendo cords. I remember going to tug at the cords at my brother's wrist. I wasn't trying to untie him, it was more out of curiosity, and the guy actually pointed his gun at me and told me to stop. When they finished going through the house, they tied us both to a beam and left. After a little while my brother wiggled out from the bindings and my parents came home. Cops were called and info was given to the police. They got a few pieces of jewelry and a camcorder. Our house has been robbed twice, and when I say this I have to wonder why we don't move, but there are reasons. The first time was at night, and we were home asleep. We think they didn't know anyone was home because both cars were in the garage. They actually came into our bedroom while we were sleeping. I think they took off at this point because stuff was pulled out but left behind. We called the police and the officer who responded pretty much just went through the motions of looking around and filing a report. In the end they didn't get a lot that was valuable except for a 19 CRT. Yes, this was a while ago. The second time, neither one of us were home, but a police officer just happens to drive by and saw an unsure-looking man coming out between the two houses carrying a laptop case and stopped to question him. Pretty much your ideal TV police scenario. I ended up getting a call at work from an officer letting me know they were inside my house. 10 minutes later my wife come to a group of police cars in front of our house, which freaked her out. We now have a multi-layer security system. In 2003, I had just turned 18 and was kicked out of my house. I worked night shifts at McDonald's and moved into an old house, basement suite, with a boyfriend. I slept during the day obviously since I did night shift. Anyway, one day, about late in the morning, my roommate was at work, and I was in bed. I could hear an engine outside and then some fickling around the front door. Somehow they had broken in. I could hear them quickly and frantically moving around. I was completely frozen. I literally could not move. I decided to just keep lying there, facing the wall, not making a sound. Then my heart dropped. I heard my bedroom door open. I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. I heard silence for a couple seconds, then footsteps running out the door. As soon as I heard my front door close and the engine start, I ran out and saw a van speeding away. By the way, they stole absolutely nothing. We had nothing of value. My bedroom was a mattress on the floor in a tiny closet area. A little over a year ago got set up. Had someone come into my friend's house. I was at leave the front door cracked and unlocked. Two people came in and one held a gun up to my head. I knocked it to the side and said shoot me. The other guy held a gun up to my friend's head and I let them do their thing, robbing me of about $5,000. Being 20 years old, this was a decent amount of money. Same year also had someone throw a brick through the window of my house and get inside, but as far as we can tell the dog chased him away. This year a man tried to rob me at knife point and sliced me when I wouldn't give him anything. My dog ended up biting him in the ass, then chasing him into a little pond and swimming after him as he cried for me to call my dog back. One night about 7 years ago, just moved into my new home. The neighborhood was a good place, no major crime. About 2 months after I moved in, I hear a huge bang at 2 a.m. at the door and then a loud redneck voice. I am in bed, I sleep nude BTW, my first reaction is to grab the sword near my bed, and charge to the living room yell. The look on the guy's face was priceless, a 300+ pound nude guy, with a sword yelling at the top of his lungs charging him. He gets out ASAP, tripping over himself, and fell in the yard while running. Call the police officers, put on some pants, and wait for the police officers to get to me. Once they arrived they already had someone in custody, saw him trying to break into another home down the street. I confirmed it was him. Once the trail came and passed, he found out he was on a meth, and looking for an abandoned lot to crash into. When I was a little kid our house was broken into. We didn't catch anyone in the act, and I don't remember all was missing. I do remember maybe a couple of weeks later my folks were moving my brother's dresser and behind it they found his plastic piggy bank slashed open, all his coins stolen. My mom lost it. After that, everything was locked up, and even now, 30 years later I double and triple check that doors and windows are all secure before leaving the house and repeatedly question myself when I go out of town. I live in a joint family system. My house is at the top and gas just finalized construction, and this is the night we moved in. I'm on the ground floor, with my sister, and 3 cousins, and their parents. We're all laughing and having fun watching TV when a masked guy with a gun walks in. Now I'm scared because this is Pakistan, and I'm an in-closet atheist, so I think he's come for me. Instead, he beats up my uncle and starts asking them for money and jewelry. They go out of the room to look while this one guy watches us. Everyone is dead quiet, we are all kids in here. Aside from that one guy laughed and made jokes. He's nice. The others, not so much. One comes in and says that they are from Afghanistan and that Pakistan has helped the US destroy their country. So, he is going to rob Pakistan. When we said that we obviously aren't from the government, he says the army did it. I freeze. My dad, who's on the top floor, is in the army. He has been deployed at the Afghan border once. No one's children are on the same floor as the parents, and nobody knows what's going on. I think our floor is the only one, and when they take everyone's phones I thank God my Nexus is in my room. Uncle comes back with mean thief. They didn't find enough. Apparently someone told them that we had gold bricks hidden somewhere. This is where I start to calm down. They're here for money. Not for me. He then tells the nice guy to shoot me to get them to talk. We managed to talk him out of it. Though then they take my eldest cousin and tell his parents if they don't cough up more, they're never going to see him again. After a bit more beating and searching they decide to leave. My dad comes down after they've left to check on everyone. He's hurt pretty bad. Whoopee, my Nexus is gone. Thankfully didn't touch my PS4 or PS3. Everyone is safe, though they were about to take a hostage. Also, one of my cousins was apparently crying and begging the shooters not to kill him to the point where the thief had to reassure him they are not. So yes. Later police tell us one of them was killed in a showdown at another house when one of the neighbors called the police. My mother is traumatized by the incident. That's pretty much it. When I was about 4, we were broken into twice. The first time, my grandfather and mum had been grocery shopping. We arrived home and unlocked the front door, and one of the bedroom doors up the passageway slammed shut from the change in air pressure. My grandfather must have sensed something was up and ran up the passageway to the bathroom. The window was open, curtains swinging in the breeze and nobody to be found. They figured he mustn't have been there long before they arrived home as nothing in the house was touched or taken. The second time was 3 months later. My mum woke up someone sitting on the bed with a knife in his hand at 3 a.m. Mum says she froze. Couldn't talk, couldn't move. Completely petrified. She said he was mumbling, but she couldn't make out what he was saying. Then the next door neighbor's dog barked, and he just stood up and walked out. She heard the back sliding door open, and a minute or so later,
the line of light shining through the curtains from the street light blanked out.
She grabbed the phone and called my grandfather. All she said was, there was someone in the house. He lived about 5 minutes away with her 3 younger teenage brothers. In less than 5 minutes they pulled into the driveway and scattered to surround the house, all barefoot wearing only their underwear. Every single door was unlocked, and the back door was open. Nobody to be seen. Mum was a mess. There were big muddy footprints in the laundry under the little window she left opens for the cat. It took a few days for all the weird things this creep had done to be discovered. He had shredded a black negligee that was in the laundry basket. Fed the cat and poured her a bowl of milk. Poured whiskey out of the decanter in the living room and added ice and Coke to it. Somehow had injected solder into the eggs in the fridge. Ate the leftover roast meat out of the fridge. Cut up some catalog that were sitting on the bench. Took a photo of the stovetop and another one of me sleeping on Mum's camera and left it sitting next door to my bed. Tipped salt into Mum's shoes. The knife went out of Mum's block in the kitchen, and they never found it. Just really weird stuff. The police officers came, got plenty of fingerprints, but whoever it was didn't have a record. The consensus eventually, a couple of years later, was that it was an acquaintance of one of her brothers. It was a bit of a Chinese whisper's conclusion though. He'd said X and Y to person A, who told person B etc., and it got back to Mum's brother. He was eventually locked up in some sort of psychiatric hold for something unrelated, and was never charged with the break-in. Messed my mum up for a lot of years. My stepdad had a monitored alarm system installed when they got together, which somewhat helped her fears. Sorry for any formatting / spelling etc. Mobile is not friendly for long stories. My dad dated an unsure woman. Her family was highly involved in the Mexican cartels. Don't ask for specifics because I don't have them. Anyway, before he went to prison, related to her, she passed away in his arms after a suspicious auto crash. He lost his sanity. It was my dad, my cousin, and my 17-year-old self living in our apartment. After she passed, her sister started spending a lot of time around the apartment. Nothing good to be said about that. She went a bit loopy, stole some of our belongings, including my most prized earthly possession at the time, a PlayStation Portable, then disappeared. Dad goes to prison, leaving just my slightly older cousin and me living in the apartment. My cousin and I lost our jobs at the same subcontracting company. He then thought it best to get into what landed my father in corrections. Nothing good to be said about that. His girlfriend picks him up to take a day business trip roughly 120 miles away. I'm 18. I'm alone. The electricity is shut off. I don't even have my PSP to pass the time. I smoke a blunt. I nap. I woke up around 9 p.m. My cousin should already be back. My cousin hasn't called. My cousin's kind of a dick. I smoke some more. Knock. Knock. Thank God, he's been gone quite long enough. Knock. Knock. Great, he's in a mood and I'm too high to be weird with. Bang. I look out the peephole. No electricity means no porch light. That large figure looks like him. The smaller, feminine build is his girlfriend. Ugh, she's so nasty. I unbolt the door. Why is the door now swinging into my nose? That really hurts, actually. Hate my cousin. Did I mention he's a dick? That's not my cousin, that's the barrel of a Beretta M9. That's the sister of my dad's dead girlfriend. Suddenly I'm sober. Who are these two Mexican gorillas with her and why are they armed? What has my cousin gotten into? Mind racing, vomit gurgling, vomit coming up. What a comical sight that would be, exorcism vomit drenching all three of them. Only it's not vomit. Words, instead, are about to be expelled with a sloppy, numb tongue and a mind that doesn't quite know what these words will be. Where the fuck is my PSP, you crazy bitch? They're going to kill me. They'll shoot me dead, and it'll just be another couple colloquial chirps of the cricket that is illegal activity in this hellhole of the city that one would call a ghetto. Instead, she ignores this. She wants to know where her baby stroller is. One of the gorillas wants to take my cat with them. My mouth continues to try to get me killed. They'll find no stroller, this is crazy. Does she even have any kids? Fade to black. I woke up to find the apartment demolished. My ass had been kicked, along with the rest of my body. Our car was gone. When I was about 8 years old, my family and I were away on holiday staying at a motel. My parents had their own room, my sister was in the single bedroom, and I was on a little folded out bed in the living room. My parents went to bed early, telling me to lock the sliding door before I went to bed, then my sister went to bed shortly after. I forgot to lock it and went to sleep in my fold-out bed located in front of the door. Next morning woke up, my parents' wallets, a bag and some cash were gone. Robber came in through the door, stepped over me when I was sleeping, went into my sister's room, stole her bag, then went into my parents' room, stole wallets and cash from bedside table, then walked back over me and were on their way out. Scary to think what he would have done if any of us had woken up but couldn't sleep for a week after that, and always conscious about locking doors. During midterms in high school, someone broke into my house. I came home, alone, and found that the change jar was empty. Blamed it on my brother and continued with my day. Found a tin of foreign money that I had opened on my bed, nothing missing, and blamed it on him again. My wallet and iPod were still sitting on my desk. About an hour and a half later, I put two and two together and went upstairs to check my mom's room. All her jewelry was gone. Called my mom, called the police officers, and went back to watching TV. We didn't get anything back, but we got some insurance money, so it was okay. This didn't happen to me, but it happened to one of my family friends. I'll call him Jake. Jake went away to Thailand for a few weeks, the whole family including him, his brother, his brother's girlfriend, and his parents. Jake was in university at the time and had some assignments he had to finish, so he returned earlier than the rest of the family. When he got there, one of the cars was missing and the house was turned inside out. They had opened all the vents, turned over all the furniture and rugs, emptied anything that could have something inside like drawers, pots, boxes. All the valuables were gone, jewelry, games, electronics, etc. He called the police officers, and everyone else came back from their holiday immediately. Turns out his brother's girlfriend had made a post on Facebook about going away. Somehow someone saw it and decided they would take their car, scope out the place and spend the next 3 days hanging out there and stealing all their stuff. Jake's parents are lawyers, so he had access to some kit of record that helped him find out something to be able to find them on Facebook, don't know, lawyer stuff, and actually found it. The guy posted a photo of him and his girlfriend. She was wearing Jake's mother's one-of-a-kind necklaces, with their stolen car in the background. The police officers said it was circumstantial. The neighbors noticed the dudes robbing the place on one of the days, got their rego, and chased them away. But still the police did it all. Turns out all the suspects they had were the same ones Jake had found, and they all had criminal records of robbery and assault and whatever else, yet still nothing was done. I can't remember what happened with their insurance exactly. I don't think it covered everything, and not to mention all the cleaning they would have had to do. In college I had these neighbors upstairs that were a gay couple. One night we all were coming back, drunk from the bar. They went upstairs to their apartment, and I went to mine. Moments later, after walking in, I hear them upstairs screaming bloody murder. I saw a guy in a jumpsuit running by my window, and I ducked into the closet and called the police officers. Evidently they walked in and saw a guy with a knife in his hand going through their shit. He must have just got there as he hadn't found anything to steal yet. When my neighbors screamed, they told me the intruder got spooked, screamed, and ran out of the apartment scared. When the police officers showed up to investigate, my neighbors got several possession charges, weed, and the younger one got an underage drinking charge. I felt pretty terrible, but I didn't know what was going on. My old place was on the first floor and had windows with plastic triangles that allowed the windows to be open a couple of inches. My roommate left the window open like that while we were both at work. Later that day he called to let me know that someone had broken in through that window. It turns out those plastic triangles weren't a lock but could easily be jimmied open. We tried it on another and saw how easy it was. Long story short, they ended up taking my roommate's stuff and not mine. He had a laptop whereas I had a desktop. He also claimed to have hundreds of loose coins stolen. The thing that made me angry was that my roommate kind of questioned me as if it was an inside job. He left the window open. It happened when I was around 10 or so. At the time, my dad's job was pretty far away, so he would stay at his father's house during the week and only come home on the weekends. So, it was just my mom and brother and me. We were getting home around 4 p.m. that day. She had a substitute teacher at one of the schools and was taking us home. Now, we lived out in the middle of nowhere and crime wasn't something we ever thought about. So, my parents never locked the doors to the house. This made breaking in quite easy for the burglar. When we arrived home that day, the house was a mess and many things of value, TV, VCR, etc., had been taken. My mom also used a metal cash box as a box to store all of her coupons, and apparently they thought it actually had cash, and had pried it open, which is weird, because she didn't even lock it. The police officers took freaking forever to get there, like 3 hours, which was because I guarantee you they had nothing else going on. Anyway, because of that event, and my dad being away, my mom and I were super scared. The police even said they might return, as we were an easy target, which did not make things any easier. I slept in her bed for a few days as it made me feel safer. That event forever changed how safe I felt. Ever since then, I make sure my doors are always locked. This is true for both my car and my house. It made me much less trusting in general. That feeling has never gone away. You feel violated in a really unpleasant way. A friend on Facebook was posting while on her vacation. She was talking all about their plans, the fun they had, and the photos they took. This was a 1-2 week Disney vacation, so it meant that she still had some money somewhere. It was at least 5 or 6 posts a day. She came back from vacation, and her house had been robbed. Someone broke a window and ransacked the place, taking a lot of her daughter's expensive birthday presents. One of the police officers asked about whether she had a lot of social media, and she finally realized that robbers look at your social media and see when you're gone. It was ironic because it was right after this commercial came out during the 2015 Sugar Bowl. If memory serves correctly, Mayhem broke into their house and legit sold replicas of their entire house, part of the ad campaign that they let all states sell replicas of everything, online during the game. I think everything was sold.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.